Hey, welcome everyone to the Game Dev Discussion Podcast. As usual, I'm your host Alex Beddoes, and this week we have Riot lead character artist Katia on. And I'm going to have to apologise. Normally I try to pronounce people's full names, but I've tried a couple of times off air and butchered it. So Katia, could you pronounce your second name correctly, please?
I go by Katia Bourykina. Yes.
I'm afraid I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm an ignorant English guy, so I butcher everyone's names, and I thought I'm gonna get one right eventually, but never happens.
No, completely okay.
So I want to kind of pick up a conversation we were having off air a little bit. We were talking about character art and education, and a common motif, you're on both sides of the fence for this, a common motif in education tends to be educators pushing students away from stylized, hand-painted character art because it's either difficult or they sort of quote-unquote believe there's no jobs out there for it. So you're a lead character artist, you've worked at some of the biggest stylized studios, you worked at WoW, you worked on League of Legends. That misconception, I do call it a misconception because it really is. There are plenty of jobs out there. Stylized art is still living and breathing very healthily. But why do you think this is? Why do you think educators sort of push students away from it so much?
Honestly, I went to the Art Institute of Dallas, and that was back in 2005. I don't think we even discussed really doing stylized art the entire time we were there. And we definitely were pushed away from being character artists. Realistic stuff is generally what we were constantly focusing on. And I do wonder if it's because maybe the teachers actually never had done stylized art. And for us, I think it's weird because that was PS2 era stuff. So there was plenty of stylized stuff. It's I played a bunch of Spyro growing up, and Crash Bandicoot and stuff. So it's all that counts, but we were constantly taught to do realism. And I do think it does make you a stronger artist, but I do think it's also really important to make sure that your students are able to pursue the studios that they actually want to work at and pursue the work that they actually want to do. And if everybody's constantly forced to do one style, it's that's all they'll ever get good at, and then that's the only jobs that they'll actually get. So it's if somebody that does want to work at Blizzard on WoW, but they are being taught to only do realistic stuff and realistic textures, it's going to take them much longer time to actually do hand-painted stylized work because they just never done it before. And then once they get into a realistic job, or job doing realistic work, it's they're going to only be doing that for an X amount of time before they'll actually have the endurance. Because whenever you first start a job, it takes so long for you to get used to the work hours, get used to the pipeline. Everything just takes time. And so once you finally settled in at that point, it's okay, well, now you have some time to actually learn the things that you want to do. But I also don't think everybody ends up doing that because everybody has a slightly different path. Maybe they would realistic stuff more or whatever style they end up doing. But I do feel teachers definitely, at least for me, have pushed away doing things that they just didn't see jobs in, which is super unfortunate because when I was in Texas, I was oh, you had to be born under some lucky star to work at Blizzard. A normal person does not work at Blizzard. And so it wasn't even a thing that I wanted to try for I don't know, many, many years. I thought I would have to wait until I was a decade in the industry to get the opportunity to work there. And that was literally not the case. So I'm happy that I had really good people in my life and good mentors that were just hey, if this is what you want, just focus on this. Let's shift your portfolio so you learn how to do this job and you could apply. And that's all it takes. And so I'm glad at the opportunities that I got in school to learn the things that I learned, but I would have felt much better if my teachers were more supportive of me actually doing what I wanted to do as opposed to what they thought was best.
Do you think it's partially due to I'm playing devil's advocate here, but with realism, something my teacher used to say to me when I was we have an illustration part at school. This is like secondary school, and the advice he gave me, I drew a lot of like aliens and monsters, and he was like, you should practice drawing like realism. And he was like, and I was like, why? Like, I'm not interested in like realism. And he's like, well, the issue is like, I can't really critique your monster because your monster's something that exists in your head. And his whole idea was like, if you drew your mum's mobile phone, she could objectively tell you, because she has a point of reference on whether you did it good or not. And that kind of is the rule for realism in general. Like, anyone could look at what someone says, oh, this is a realistic design for, I don't know, like the Seattle Forests, which is like, infamous from the Last of Us games. It's like, oh yeah, this is my take on a Seattle Forest. And I could look at a photo of the Seattle Forest and go, like, as a teacher, and say, well, you haven't done it quite right. Like, you've not got this, you've not got that. Whereas a stylization, there is a certain level of artistic, there's taste involved, which is a component, but not like the most important one. But it's like, there's an artistic eye required for stylized. Like, for you to critique or even understand stylized art to a certain extent, like, you have to understand realism really well and then understand what you're doing with the art in order to make it look a certain way. Which, for an industry like the education sector for game art, like, majority of it does not have industry people in. A lot of them are teachers and academics who end up in that field. And it's kind of like, well, it's easier for me to critique. I can actually accurately critique realism. I can't necessarily, not everyone is equipped to critique stylized art. Is that fair, or is that, is it not? Am I putting stylized art too difficult for the average person to sort of understand and view?
I do think that is true. And I think that I do think that is true. And at that point, like, if you want to have a good school, you should probably have a mix of teachers that are able to do a bunch of different things. And that's really hard in the States, because it's like, I've seen the people that are coming out of colleges here. Like, I know how my college worked. Like, I still visit my college's art side to see how the students are doing. And the work is still very similar to the kind of quality and the kind of assets that they made back when I was there. And because like, I go there because I want to be like, hey, we have internships up. Would love to see any of y'all join our internship. But it's like, looking at their quality of work, it's like, nobody's doing any stylized stuff. And I think it's because the teachers have just never had that experience of doing stylized stuff. And like, I think it would really open them up to so much more if they had those teachers that were there. And it's like, and you don't even need like 5 teachers or anything. You just need like one teacher, one evening a week kind of thing. And like, come in and teach the students. And that was like, the best teachers that I had were the ones that were coming from Gearbox and id, and they would just teach in the evenings. So the most of the stuff that I learned was literally from them. And they made a huge impact, I think, on our school. So just having the ability to have like a teacher that could support that and nourish that too. Cause like, I wasn't going to be a character artist whenever I was in school. I was going to be a concept artist, and that was not good. But I wanted to be a concept artist, which was also like, oh, you shouldn't be a concept artist. Like, you're never going to find a job. But it's like, when I wanted to be a character artist, you shouldn't be a character artist. You're never going to have a job. But I still graduated with a few characters and a few props in my portfolio. So at least I had that going for me. But I had a really supportive character art teacher who looked at my work, and he suggested that I should switch to being a character artist, which was like super inspiring and motivating, because I've never had that kind of support in art school. And so it's like, if you have those teachers, they're like, oh, well, you want to work on like Sea of Thieves at Rare. And if they have the eye and the ability to help you like develop those skill sets in that portfolio, that's amazing, because you're helping somebody reach their like dream job faster. And I do think it's probably mostly skill. Because not everybody has the time to go teach at a college in the evening, or there's a lot of art schools that are not in communities that have a lot of like just studios around it. So I assume that's probably part of that.
But do you think it'd change? So like, I mean, I was having a conversation with some guys about this. I don't hate the term stylization. annoys me because it's such a spectrum, and it's like, you know, someone says, "Oh, stylized art. I don't really like stylized art. I like God of War," and I kind of snigger because I'm like, "That's stylized." Like, you don't see rocks like that in real life. Like, there is a certain element of stylization taking place. Same with nearly every game. I think the only games where I can say, like, from an environmental arts perspective, anyway, like that really hits realism is stuff like dice games. But they photo scan so much stuff. There's like, yeah, of course it's gonna be realistic because it's taking out the actual world. But I think there's a misconception. It's like, oh, if you do stylized art, you are hampering yourself from being able to get because we look at if you think of the biggest games on the planet that the mainstream audience think of, they'll put stuff like God of War, Horizon, Last of Us. And it's like, yeah, but that's all realistic. And it's like, well, no, like there's elements of stylization taking place. And if I feel as if educators were more understanding of that, they'd be far less quick to say, hey, don't do stylized art, because you're still going to learn the skill sets. If you do a little bit of stylized and you decide you want to work on God of War, you've probably developed a lot of skills that you're going to need to work on a God of War game, exaggerating shapes, exaggerating forms, simplifying forms, making stuff readable. Like, this is all mastered in like the hyper stylized type of art. Yet educators probably feel like, oh yeah, God of War, hyper realism, like, yeah, that's realistic games, you should do realism. And it's like, well, no, that's not. And like, it's not stylized either by your definition, but it's not really. And it's like, I don't know, the terminology, I feel like it's another issue with this industry where it's like, okay, no job title is really correct. Every job title is different depending on who you speak to and what studio and all that sort of stuff. The art form names aren't really correct. Like, stylized art means different things to different people. So like, is it a case of, do you think maybe, how do I word this without being rude? I'm trying to, I don't want to dumpster too much. I know I have an axe to grind, but do you think that there's a room where like you kind of need to educate the educators in order to teach game art correctly? Or do you think it's maybe we just need to make more of an effort to get like industry people in doing these things? Because it takes so many years to understand these art forms and do them well, like to be able to teach them to the next generation of artists. Like, you can't just read a book and understand it. Like, you need to like really have kind of done it. Is that something that would help? Do you think, like, because I don't think you could find an artist in the industry like at some of these studios and they would be so dismissive of fields, especially character art. Like, I'm playing devil's advocate. I can make a case for, like, I understand someone saying, oh, realism, stylized, like, there's no jobs for that, because all they think about when they think of mainstream are the big PS4 titles like Last of Us, God of War. Even though that's not the case, League of Legends and Dota are some of the biggest games on the planet, Valorant, and they're all stylized. So, like, it's a moot point, but to the mainstream, maybe I can get it. But character art, like, why would you ever say don't do that? Like, every game needs characters. It's not like some games have, don't need them. Like, literally, nearly every single game needs character art. So that can't come from and I don't want to be rude. Can't come from someone who's educated in the field to say, hey, you don't do character art. Like, where would that even come from? Like, what, worried that you don't get the job, like, in the most competitive field on the planet? Like, where would that change with only if you had more industry people in education?
I honestly think so. Like, if we want to stay relevant within our industry, we keep having to, like, sharpen our blade and keep growing, keep learning, keep like upkeeping with the tech and where the industry is heading. I think the issue that happens to a lot of schools is like, one, they hire students as soon as the student graduates. I've seen this a lot.
Yep.
And it's super unfortunate because that person hasn't gotten quite the same experience yet. So they're just teaching kids that are like just a few years younger than them and a few years less experienced than them. And I don't think that's enough to actually get into teaching people. I mean, some people might be like amazing at what they do, and there are those cases where it's like, you know what? Yeah, that person is an amazing teacher, even though they're brand new to the industry. They know what they're doing. They're actually good at teaching. That's a whole other thing. And so it's like, there are those cases. But I do think that a lot of the teachers that we do have in the industry, at least in the States, they're not keeping up with the industry. Like they're teaching the same stuff that they've been teaching for years. They might update it ever so slightly, but I kind of doubt that they're aware of like, sorry, that they're aware of like all the games that are up and coming, the games that are actually well played. Like, and there are more games than the games that we have in like the Western cultures as well. There's a lot of games everywhere. Like I get China hitting me up all the time because I do so many like hand painted stuff that it's a huge booming market over there. And it's insane to think that the only games that are you can get a job in is the realistic games. And I do think it is just because they need to be better educated. But I also understand like yes, they probably have personal lives, they have their own stressors. But it's like if you want to be a really good teacher, you should know your industry that you're teaching and bringing people up into. And like, because I've mentored people who are students and they would tell me that they have to go make like 5 characters in a month. And I'm like, what do you mean 5 characters in a month? Like, no. And this isn't even like a hand painted chibi character or something. This is like current gen character. And it baffles me because I'm like, you literally cannot do that unless you are like crazy senior principal not sleeping for this month kind of thing. But it's impossible. So it's like, what is the purpose of this like assignment? Is it to learn the software? Is it to learn game development? Because this is not a portfolio piece. Like you're not going to get portfolio pieces out of it. So there's just a lot of things that schools do that it just blows my mind because it's like, if I would have known, and I mean, I was told that portfolios were important, but nobody nobody pushed it as hard at me as I wish they would have. Like if I would go in my past and be like, hey, you need to start working your portfolio like as a sophomore. Like you just need to do this and pay attention and not just do your homework. Like go half-ass your homework, like throw it away, like barely pass, go work on your portfolio, actually go get good. Like I wish I had that, and I didn't have that probably until I don't know, like my last year. I ended up spending an extra year in college because I switched over from concept to 3D, and that last year is where I just like worked all the time, nonstop for forever, and it was incredibly hard. But I wish I would have done the same thing earlier and had that time to actually get much better. But it's insane because it's like I didn't put any of my homework assignments into my portfolio. Like everybody did the same stuff, which was like this column with these pipes that are like coming out of it with like a grate or something. And like as it's mentioned, you don't want to put your homework in your portfolio because there's like 30 other people there doing the exact same thing, and most likely they're probably better than you. So there's no point of putting that stuff in there. And so a lot of our homework, like on all of our homework, you just don't put it in there unless it's like, oh, hey, I picked my own concept. Somehow I did a fantastic job on it. I'm super proud of it. I'm going to put this in my portfolio. But all the school assignments that I got, it was like, I kind of learned the program, kind of didn't learn the program. And then I threw that away.
Yeah, it's where my biggest, my eyes have been opened. I mean, I always knew I didn't go to university, but like, I've always known that for the most part, and there are some good eggs out there. Like there are literally the 0.1%. There are some good eggs, and I'm ruling out like Nomon and Art School and a couple of the Swedish ones. Like they are the exception to the rule. But where it really got shown, like I really saw it, was I spent a lot of time in the Dynasty community just helping out. I'd sit in the voice chat and some students would hit me up asking for sort of advice and to talk. And it got to the point where I was like, oh, give your lecturer my email and I'll tell him he's wrong. Because like he was saying to his students like these gigantic concepts. I mean like a giant frozen ruin with like a big statue in it and ice. I mean, I avoid ice and snow at all costs. It is hard to get it right. But that on top of this gigantic scene, skies, foliage, and this was like a 6-week project. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't tackle this as a 4-month portfolio piece, let alone, and that's me. And I'm like, no, don't do this. Do not do this. Like simplify way down. And his lecturer's like, no, but I want you to show me all your skills. I want to see a piece with all your skills. And I'm like, it takes an entire art team to make this in a game, and you're asking this kid who doesn't know everything yet to do that. So I was like, and this happens multiple times, and I'm kind of like, your portfolio is king. Like, sorry, and with utmost respect, your degree means jack shit. Like, no studio is going, all right, like, before we look at this person's portfolio, does he have the qualifications? Like, no, like, you have a good portfolio, then we have a conversation. And I mean, I've heard some people make a case, and it is a good point. A degree can get you visas. Fair enough. Okay. I mean, I'm not willing to pay. I mean, as much as I want to work in the US, I'm not paying 30 grand for a visa, which is what education costs. And you can get in, through other means, having good portfolios, doing some extracurriculum stuff. But dude, that's where my biggest axe comes from for the education, is where you're giving false information and false expectations on students. Saying, hey, don't do this, what will be a good portfolio piece. Do this arbitrary thing which you're not going to 6 weeks for an entire scene, learning software along with it. It's like, that's impossible. Like, nobody could do that. Like, the best artists on the planet couldn't do that. And you expected this of a student? And I'm like, again, you paid for this, and it breaks my heart. But so back, I guess actually this is a good when I was segue, but this actually leads on to an interesting point. I have zero understanding of the character art world. I could give advice for days, and I've had plenty of people on the podcast give advice for days on like what portfolios should look like, entering the industry as an environment artist. And last week I had my art director on, who's a concept artist, Eric, and it turned out to be a really useful piece of information for people when we spoke about what portfolios can look like from concept artists. So for like a character artist, you say to yourself, like, 5 characters, X amount of time, ridiculous. Like that's impossible. What sort of things could be? What's a good time frame for like a portfolio piece? Or what's a good idea for a portfolio piece? In character art, we'll base this in stylized art as well. In like the hand painted field. What's like a good a good start point to start thinking about portfolio for somebody wanting to get into this field? Because clearly we've already, we know that we can't trust lecturers always to give the best advice. So from you, Lee, you're a lead character artist at Riot, one of the biggest stylized studios on the planet. Like, what's a good piece of advice? What's a good place to start with a portfolio for character art?
Yeah, for character art, honestly, like, quality over quantity any day. No fluff pieces. If somebody has just 2 or 3 character pieces, that's fantastic. Like, I'm perfectly happy to see just 3 great pieces rather than like say 6 pieces and 3 of them weighing those other 3 down, because that's what happens. Like, you're only as good as your worst piece, kind of thing. That's something that I've always heard, and that's a good thing that I took away from my school. I did like a lot of people at my school, and I do love some of my old teachers. It's just their practices were very outdated. But I'm a big believer in making sure that you only put your best work in there. And if you want to work at a specific studio, I would definitely suggest to make sure that you have like a few different studios that you are super, super interested in that are the same style. So you're shooting for all of them. So if you are shooting for something that is more realistic, then pick the studios that you want to work at, see the kind of stuff that they're looking for, what the people that are working at there are creating, and create similar pieces to that, because that studio that you want to work at, they want to be able to hire somebody that can already almost kind of do the job in that junior associate position. Like, as long as you show that you can kind of hit it and you have that potential to be even better with like a little bit of feedback, a little bit of hand holding, then that's great. And so for like any hand painted portfolio, if you were like, oh yeah, I want to work on League, I want to work on WoW, I want to go work on like Airship Syndicate, because they also have like stylized hand painted stuff. Try to create stuff that those games have, or those artists that are working there, that they have in their portfolios, and try to hit that quality. Like, when you're working on a piece, like, bring up the pieces that are your bar and like check yours against that. Like, is this hitting the quality? Is it almost hitting the quality? Is it completely not even close to being there? If it's like, and honestly, spending the time, I think one of the things that I see the most is like character art is hard. I mean, anything in our industry is super hard. And so especially if you're learning stuff, it's going to take you like double, triple, quadruple the time to get anything done because you're learning in that process. It's not like you're just doing it and you're like knocking out a piece. It's like, no, you got to look this up, you got to look that up, and you got to figure this out. And does this look good? Is this kind of it? And so it takes a really long time, and being able to push through those and constantly be like, okay, I need quality. I need to like not give up. I do see a lot of people who stop at like that 60% and they call it done. And the way that I've always thought about it is like, if I see something that is wrong with one of my pieces, even if it takes me like an annoying 5 minutes, I rather do that and fix it because I know somebody else will do that to their portfolio and they're going to get the job. And I want the job more. So I'm willing to work for it. And I think that's super important is like analyzing, having references, just knowing what you want and focusing on it. And I know there's like a lot of shiny stuff out there because like whenever I first started, I did want to be a character artist, but then I'd see people like Raul, who you interviewed, because he was actually a TA at my school for a little bit. He like created this, I think it was a Vespa or a moped or something. And I was like, that's amazing. I want to make like vehicles, which I don't like vehicles anymore. But I was so inspired that I was like, I want to make these things. I want to make like little environments and stuff. And everything was like shiny, new. I wanted to do all the things. And I had to really focus down and to actually like make my portfolio show what I could do and where I wanted to work. And I think one of the things it's like, yeah, schools make you more of a generalist. Like I was a generalist, I think for quite a while because my first job, we kind of did everything and we had to jump around styles all the time. And I used to have like old schoolmates. I'd be like, wow, you don't really have a style. You're it's kind of weird. And at that point I was like, I don't know how I feel about that comment. Now, like if I see a senior that is able to jump around so much, it's like, that's amazing because I know that they would be able to jump to any studio, any project, and they'd be able to copy the style. But back then it's like, I don't think I was that good to really, like I kind of could do a little bit of everything, but it wasn't solid. It wasn't polished. It was kind of still all over the place. And so really focusing down and be like, okay, I want to work at Santa Monica. I want to make the next God of War game. Like go study those artists, go study that game, go like grab Raf's tutorials, go learn how he does anatomy, go dig through like everything you can. Like a lot of those artists have a bunch of tutorials, have mentorships, have like they teach. So it's like having the opportunities of really taking that extra step to actually one, learn from them, and two, see how they do stuff and try to add that to your portfolio. Because when they'll see that, like every time I look at a portfolio, like there's certain things that I look for hand painted stuff. And I'm always interested to know if the students or the people who want to work with us, if they actually like want to work on League or if they just want to work at Riot. Because I want to work with people who are passionate and like actually really want to work on League and really love the style rather than just be part of a studio because it looks good on your resume, which some people do that. And I think that's also fine. But for me personally, it's like our team is so crazy passionate that it's like, I mean, even if we would get somebody that isn't quite into League, they will be into League regardless. But preferably if I see somebody that's like, yeah, I've been playing League, I love League, I've made this fan art League, like that always pops off right away because I know they're going to be incredibly dedicated. And so those are definitely the people that stand out to me, but portfolio over anything. So if there is somebody that's like crazy amazing and they're like, well, I like it, not in love with it, but I love the style and the work and I'm really passionate about it, like that also still stands out.
What about like objectively, like the type, like kind of the actual context of the portfolio piece? So for example, like in realism, I tend to see like one or two things. I see either like heads, like people would have just do like a head sculpt, face and hair, and then I see like full bodies, like full body characters. In stylized art, I tend to see like a lot more like kind of busts of people or full characters. Like, is there if I was say, I'm just trying to think of a hypothetical, like I'm a student and I'm like, right, well, I'm going to focus on a bust of a character because I can like really kind of focusing a little bit more on like the amount of texture space I have, detail, all that sort of stuff. And I really nail a bust. Like the shoulders ahead of design, everything's great, textured well. If you saw that on a portfolio, are you going, okay, I need to see a full character as well, because it's all well and good being able to make some head and shoulders. Can you make a whole person? Or is it a case of, okay, I can clearly see the fundamental skills here of texturing, of design, all of these sorts of things. That's enough to get a conversation started. Like, is that type of, what would you give the advice to a student on that front, like in terms of the actual context of what they're making?
I actually love busts because busts are amazing to learn on. I used to not think that, but I had a really fantastic mentor, Bogdan Gabelko. He's a principal artist at Riot now. Mm-hmm. But he made me do busts because I was just like, I want to make a full character, make super detailed, like crazy concept. And he's like, no, you're learning the style. You need to start off slow. And you really need to be able to focus in on stuff. And busts are amazing for that because, like, yeah, it's not a full character, whatever. But it really makes you, like, if you create a mistake, much easier to fix it on a bust than like a super complex character. So I do believe that busts will definitely show off the quality of work of somebody. But I would also love to see that they did do a full character, or even like anatomy sculpts, because anatomy is so important. Like, but topology and stuff, like the industry can teach you topology. Like every studio is going to do topology different. Yeah. If you have a good understanding of like limb deformation, that's great. UV space, but honestly, it's like, I think aesthetics are so hard to teach, and it takes so long to develop. So if I see an artist that knows aesthetics and knows texturing specifically for hand painted stuff, like I get excited, because things like, topology, UVs, that's more of a technical kind of thing, and that's teachable. Having somebody that knows what good actually looks like and can focus in on hand painted materials and be like, yeah, this is what a leather looks like. This is what a metal looks like. This is what a gem looks like. That's amazing, because that's like our final in-game asset. It's hand painted, and we don't have lighting in most of the game. And so you can't rely on lighting to make something pop. You have to be able to like illustrate the textures to move in 3D space and to look good. And so whenever I see anybody that is able to do that, like, I get excited. So if it's a bust, I'm cool with it. But I do want to make sure they know the rest the rest of the character as well, at least in some form of way. Like it would be great if they had like maybe one fully done character. If they had that bust, like that's already a really great starting point. I do feel like female characters are harder to do than male characters. Monsters or creatures, depends on the creature. Like I think demonic monsters are a little bit easier, but I come from the time where like since I grew up in Texas and we had id, it's like Doom was a big thing, so everybody loved to do monsters and horns and demonic things, and I love it. So I in the back of my mind I always see that as like an easier thing to create, but creating like a creature that is based in realism is definitely a little bit harder to do, because at that point you're trying to analyze like how the muscles are going to work, or what kind of, like, do they have fur, do they have scales, all that stuff is like it's a pretty big plus, and it is pretty hard to do. But if somebody has like a male, female, and a creature, I think that's perfect. If they just have like a male and a female, that's already great. Like creature is a plus. And like having just the eye for aesthetics is amazing, but it's so hard because that's something that you just develop over time. And unless you're literally just on ArtStation sitting there analyzing art for like hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, I think you just have to develop it naturally. But I remember when I was in college, like I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Hung Tae Kim, he's like one of my absolute favorite artists. I think I've loved him since I was 13. I would literally be sitting at my train station waiting for my train, and I would just pull up his images, and I would just sit there and analyze them to look at how the lighting works, to look at how his colors works, to look at how his shadows look. And it's just like constantly thinking about that. And I think that really helped me, because I would do this with a lot of the artists that I really loved. and it helped me develop my aesthetics. And so that's something that I think I'm much stronger at. Definitely now over then, but I think that's always been like one of my strengths personally.
I just want to go back to one point you said, because it is you said that you thought the females are probably a little bit more difficult than males. Now, the reason I ask about this is because I remember speaking to a concept artist back one of my old studios, and he used to always say, in illustration anyway, he said like females are not way easier, but they're easier to draw than men, because men tend to look awkward because there's a lot more straight lines and angles compared to women are far curvier. So it ends up being that like it's harder to get men to look actually natural, because men tend to look quite awkward when you're doing illustrations of them. What makes you say that? So on the flip side, you said in 3D you find females to be a little bit more difficult. What element of it is it? What's more difficult for you?
So they're much easier for me because I grew up making a lot of those on my personal time.
Yeah.
But they are harder. And I do remember like my first ZBrush class. I remember I did like this old man, so he had like really a lot of wrinkles. So he was pretty easy to do. And then somebody was making like this elf character, or something like elvish. And they were like, their face was in their early 20s. It was like perfection. And it looked really simple, but it was so hard to capture that essence of just that beauty and that simplicity, that it's like, if I mess up a wrinkle on my old man, that was fine. Nobody could tell. He looked fine. But it's so much easier to mess up like a beautiful, simple face, because there's nothing to hide behind. And that's something our teacher taught us. And then I also just learned over time that, especially when I was starting out, there was like a handful of artists that were really good at making females, and everybody else made, they should just say made Space Marine and monsters, which is true. And I do like Space Marines and monsters, but that was like the thing. People would make like these burly dudes. Like Gears of War was super in, Doom stuff was super in. It was just like the thing, and people were really great at doing it. And so you kind of like, you just did the thing that was around, that inspired you, that you loved, and that just happened to be the stuff. Like I used to be made fun of for making girls. Like I had guys in college, whenever I draw girls, would be like, "Oh, is this your girl squad?" And it's like, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
There's like 3 girls in our entire like year, but thank you for being so kind to me. And
you gotta love teenage immaturity. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and it was just like I used to make a lot of females because it's just, you didn't do it for your job, and it was what I liked to do. And so people would always kind of give me crap for it, like, "Oh, you're making another girl." And it's like, well, I don't get to do it on my day job. So yes, if I want to get good at this, I have to keep doing it. And then others would be like, "Oh, you're good at making girls because you are a girl." And that's like, that is also very untrue. You're good at making things that you're constantly training yourself to be good at. But I think I'm very happy that our industry is like a lot more diverse now in the content that we create. So like I can turn on ArtStation, and there's just so many amazing artists in like every field. So now I don't have to go to like 5 people to see inspiring art. I can literally just see like a ton of brand new artists that are just like constantly pumping out content where I'm just like amazed and inspired by. And I think that's great. And I love that our industry has just grown so much and has gotten better. And I do wonder if it's like the resources that we're now just sharing within our industry. Because back in the day, it's like you didn't have a lot of resources. You had like your Gnomon DVDs and you had Polycount, and you'd go to those two things to learn anything you could and hope that there's like a professional that will give you answer some of your questions. But now I think like with all the resources that we do have, there's a lot more artists that are just getting so much better at it because they're just learning all these things and supporting each other too. So it's fantastic. But I always felt like creating like a beautiful character, like even kids, like making a kid is going to be harder than making like, I don't know, a 40-year-old dude where you're like, yeah, you know, I can like push some wrinkles here, add some fat to the face here, like and like have some like hooded eyes that are like a little bit heavier because this dude's really tired. He's like worked out in life. But with a kid, you're like, how do you make this bright, happy, plump, shiny face? Like if you put a wrinkle here, gonna look off. It's just you have to be so subtle. And I think that's why it's generally harder to do female faces. And I mean, there's like that conversation in animation where it's like you look at all the male characters versus female characters. It's like all the female characters have this like really soft, rounded face, and then all the male characters have like these over exaggerated, really cool features that give them all this character. And I think in Brave, somebody created some really great examples because it's like all the clans, all the characters were just so unique looking. And then like, oh my God, I forgot her name. The main girl and her mom, like they just have these like really nice, soft, rounded features, really cute. And then like all the dudes are just like so cool and more interesting looking. And I get why that is a thing, but that is a thing.
Yeah. It's, well, I mean, one thing to come back to as well, like anyone, it's weird, like, so the like explosion in the internet really like as this really, I mean, we're now halfway through a generation of people who grew up with the internet. It's like, you know, I was born in the 90s, just during that time when the internet was like half and half in terms of being mainstream and not. And like now, like people who grow up during it, that it's there the whole time. And there's been good and bad points of that. Like good points, like you said, there's a lot more resources. I mean, even compared to when I was like getting into the industry, there's way more resources available out now. Or people are more outspoken, I feel like, more public about it. Like, one of the bits I like, so I do see a lot of discourse on anyone who comments on what somebody does for art in their own time is just gratuitous and basically being a dick. Like, it's every time I see it, I'm like, oh man, fuck you. Like, leave this, you know, like, it's art in the day. There's what it has fuck all to do with you doing your own time. However, what I would say is anytime I've seen that in it, and they tend to happen mainly on like either Twitter or Facebook groups, it also gets called out pretty quickly. Anyone who like, you know, dumpsters on, you know, makes a snark comment about, oh, you're just doing it for big chicks, how boring, or you do nothing but, I don't know, whatever, insert art form. It's like, it's been nice to see, especially recently, it gets called out very quickly and no one's really accepting of it. I don't think there's any industry artists, publicly anyway, who would be like, what's the word, okaying that kind of behavior. Like, as soon as you start like shit talking someone's personal art, you're like, and I don't mean shit talking like, you know, oh, you could improve this element or something like that. I mean like like taking a piss at, oh, you're doing that, how funny. It's like, who, like, I'm sorry, where's your art? Like, what are you doing in your spare time? Like, apart from shit talking me, like, I find that so infuriating. Because most of the time, the only time I see it happen as well is it tends to come from people who aren't doing anything themselves. They just are bored and want to try and make somebody else feel bad about their art. It's very, it's one of the bad sides of social media. Like, I mean, I don't really use social media as a person anymore. Like, my online presence tends to be like my better design art. That's my sort of artist me, not me.
Yeah.
So like I interact with social media in a weird way, but that's one of the things that every time I see it, I'm like, oh god, like you're a person. Like, it's you're online, you're shit talking this person, and it's like, why? Like, you can't think this is, the thing I find hilarious is like, you can't think this is a good idea, because sometimes they're like students who are trying to get into the industry. That's what really makes me cringe, is I'm like, I see some, you know, it always comes around on Twitter somehow, you'll see someone retweet like the comment or something, and you go, all right, let's like see who this person is. Okay, you're a student. You thought it was a good idea to go to an industry person's portfolio or profile and smack talk what they do in their own time. You think this is a good strategy for you to get into the industry, and it's like, oh god, you poor soul. Like, you just, that's it. Yeah. You fucked yourself over really at this point.
Yeah, that's I learned that lesson thankfully through somebody else. But like back when I was still in school, I guess they had a sketch group that a bunch of like id people would go to and a bunch of professionals would go to, and then a handful of students. And there was a student that I guess shit talked Doom. Well, you don't do that. Yeah. And all of the professionals got so mad that they left that sketch group and started their personal one. And then there goes that like relationship networking possibility for any student, because now it's like the student ran his mouth or her mouth, and they ruin that opportunity for a bunch of other people. Like, you just don't do that. So I've always learned from that. It's like, you have to be like kind and courteous to people. You want to treat people the way you actually want to be treated. Like it's just I definitely have bad days, but I'm not gonna go take it out on other people. Like there's no point in that. And I have opinions, but I also like it's none of my business what somebody else does with their portfolio or what they do with their personal time. And like I used to be told all the time that it's like, oh, you're making another girl, and then I had a lot of friends that are male character, like they're guys in the industry, and they made a bunch of females, and they're amazing at them. Like I was so inspired by the work, but they'd also get like yelled at, and it was just ridiculous because it's like, please let them keep making this art because nobody else is. Like I'm so inspired to see their work. And for them to be constantly dragged down for like sexualizing women, blah blah blah, which they weren't doing. They're just creating really cool female characters. It was really unfortunate, and it sucks because a lot of those people kind of stopped posting. And the same thing with me. Like I definitely do not post all of the work that I do, personal or even work because it's just like I don't know. I've kind of lost that interest of needing or wanting to post because a lot of the time it's like I just got used to somebody making like just a crappy comment. It's like, I don't, you know what? I'm doing this for me. I'm not even doing this for the internet. This is for me. And like when I post, it's because I'm usually like proud of something or I just want to share it. Or if I'm sharing something like maybe crappy or work in progress, like I hope that students see my crappy work in progress and go, oh, so everybody starts off really crappy and it gets good over time. Like I always found that to be really cool. But when people, I don't know, just become negative or make snippy comments, it's like it's depressing and it makes people not want to post. And like I feel like I've developed a pretty thick skin over the years, and so when I don't want to post stuff, it's like it takes a lot. But I do really hope that students are not, or like even just younger artists and just like associates, like anybody that's starting out who's still trying to develop their confidence within the industry, I hope they're not like turned off by some of the industry that does that, because it is hard. It's super hard to navigate it. Like at the very beginning, anybody that gives you feedback, like some people take it incredibly positive, and then others really like it hurts them on a whole other level, and they really internalize it, and it makes it really hard for them. And so having to learn to be even okay with like feedback and, you know, look at art as your work and not as you, like it's hard. And so, all the negativity, like I hate it, but I am very thankful for the people in our industry that are standing up for each other. Like I do think I think we've always had that on some level, but I do think it has definitely gotten a lot stronger because we have such a good community. And like even Twitter, it's probably my favorite community because I've definitely pulled away from like using Instagram and Facebook, but Twitter has like this amazing art community of like these great people that are just constantly empowering each other and supporting each other and just like showing off and sharing your work and giving you all this like positive feedback and just like fighting for you. And I love that because didn't really grow up with much of that whenever I was developing as an artist. So that whole support system is like amazing to have. So I am thankful for that.
Yeah, I do like it. It's interesting. Yeah, I use social media in lots of different ways. Like Instagram, I use like as a photography platform. Twitter is kind of the closest thing to me, I guess, is the best way to describe it. But like, I mean, it's weird as well though, like, because you've got to be very careful when you like. I mean, I've seen this happen with Cyberpunk. Like, obviously, there was a lot of controversy around that when it came out. But I'm like, I mean, I'm seeing it even in industry people, and you remember the characters who do it. It's like, you know, shit talking Cyberpunk and like laughing and memeing on like, you know, that's what a lot of devs are going through. And I mean, some of the devs there are still going through hell right now trying to get that game like to a point. And you know, there are people that blame. I mean, it's kind of like, be careful how you like kind of what you said with that guy who shadowed Doom. It's like, people put a lot into these games, and yeah, sometimes it's not what you want and not what you like. You're not happy with the way it came out, but like, there's still an army of people who put their heart and soul into it who aren't to blame for like a game coming out a certain way. Like I've thought about this with the Battlefront games. Beautiful games. I mean, seriously, some of the best looking games I've ever seen. And it's kind of like, I feel so bad for the team who got that game finished. It is an incredible game, looks great, plays really well, and then somebody who's in an executive position somewhere says, "Okay, actually, we should like rinse this game of microtransactions and very toxic, dangerous microtransaction strategies." And you're like, that's not a dev's fault, that's not an artist's fault, but like, they're going to be the ones who have to bear the brunt online for this sort of shit. And it's like, I feel so. I'm always like, as an industry folks, you kind of got to be, you shit talk the right people, and you'll be very, and you don't brand the whole game as bad, or you don't brand the whole project as bad. It's like, there's people involved who make bad decisions, but it's really never the creative team. Actually, as well, you said about social media, like, you know, Twitter's a great base for you, and it is something I do, and I don't know if you do it as well. I struggle to use, so, and this is probably a bad mindset coming from, like, you know, portfolio and student mindset, but I tend to only post work or like game related stuff, like game art related stuff, like if it's retweeting a tutorial or useful reference or another artist who's particularly interesting. But it kind of stops there. I don't put much of a personal opinion on anything. You know, if you see my Twitter, you only really see the artist side of me. And the same with Instagram. I don't use that as a personal person. Like, you don't see much of my personality come through on there, on my opinions, because, and this is probably a sad mindset, I kind of always think no one cares about, like, you know, what my, whatever it is, political opinion, sporting opinion, you know, whatever it might be. I'm always kind of like, all people are here for with social media, for art anyway, and for me, they're here for either the podcast or art. Like, they don't care if I say I disagree with this team signing this player or anything like that. So I've kind of just completely disconnected social media from, I guess, me, Alex. It's like, it's artist me. And this is what I do think a lot of artists do. I see this, you know, a lot of my friends are doing the same thing. Like Twitter, I mean, we only use Twitter as a main example because that's the one most artists, the ones I know anyway, use. It's kind of, a lot of them use it as a, this is my art and this is my industry, and it stops there. You know, you don't really get much of an insight to the person, and I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. It's been, because at first, like, you know, you asked me last year, I'd be like, oh, this is good. No one really cares about, you know, anything else, and you know, they're here for the art or the podcast or whatever. But then now recently, I'm kind of thinking of it as, oh, that's not really a good mindset. Like, we're more than just our art and our careers. Like, and it's been nice to see. I apologize. I always use Ivana as an example, but she's such a good example of it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's great. It's like her identity online is not, oh, I'm just an artist. It's like she has all these great hobbies, like the rock climbing, the archery, all of these sorts of things. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's a person here who has a life outside of games. That's nice. You do that with social media? Do you get what I mean? Like, I feel very disconnected, and I do this intentionally. Like, I feel disconnected from the platform, and it's because I put the art first. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, do you do this? Do you notice it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I think when I was first starting out, and probably before I moved to Blizzard, I think I had much more of a personality online, because like I've gone through my old Facebook posts and I'm like, wow, I'm talky. Like, and I share a lot more. And I talk about my experiences in my life, which Facebook was more about that. And like, but I also constantly shared like, oh, new tutorial came out. Ooh, new cinematic came out. Ooh, new game came out. My favorite artists. And on Twitter, a lot of the time, what I do is literally try to retweet people that are really good and their work needs to be shared. Like, if it's somebody that's really well known, like I don't know, I love like one of their like 2D pieces is so beautiful, like I want to share this. Or if I see like up and coming artists and I'm like, wow, their work is like really nice. They definitely don't have like, I don't see them having a following. They deserve to have like many more connections and hopefully good opportunities. So I try to retweet things like that, and then tutorials, and yeah, like your podcast. I actually grew up listening to a lot of podcasts when I was first breaking in. So I actually have like this love for any podcast I can find. So I constantly I have them on the background all the time. And so I try to share anything that goes over like game development, but I do feel like I don't show who I am online as much anymore. Which at the same time, I'm like, well, at least I'm professional on there. But I do miss being like a whole person. And I like the things that I love, like I love horror movies, so I watch horror all the time. And occasionally I'm like, oh, like once a year I'll post about this and I'll ask people for like any recommendations kind of thing. But I rarely feel like I show who I am, which mostly is art. Like I'm not gonna lie, I like live and breathe art at this point. Like ArtStation is the first thing that I look at because I have that extension on my browser where it pops up like a random ArtStation post. Yeah, and like I constantly have that up and I'm constantly discovering new art and it's amazing. So I'm always looking at art and work stuff and just things that inspire me. And it's like my Twitter is mostly all art feeds. But I would love to be more of myself. I don't know if people would like me as much. Maybe they're just there for, just the art side of me, but I would love to connect with more people. And I do luckily know a good handful of people in person that I talk to on Twitter too. So I know some of them actually know me and actually like me as who I am and not just me as like a character artist. But I do want to be better at it. Like I love Ivana's posts because it's like, oh, here's some art, but also here's my really cool new shirt. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. I love your fashion. Like I love all those things that just show who that person is. Like I love skincare and I love beauty products, but I don't really talk about that because I don't know, game industry doesn't really talk about it. But the few times that I have, I actually had really fantastic replies from like a lot of people in our industry that are also interested in that. And so that was like eye-opening because I'm like, oh wow, okay, so there are people that actually like this kind of stuff. So I would love to share. And like sports things, I think you definitely should share sports things. There's plenty of people that that are big sports fans here. Like I know there's some Naughty Dog guys that are friends of mine who love football, so they talk about football whenever it's that season. They talk about their favorite teams. And I think that's great. Like, even though I am not a football person, my mom was a big football person. So I share the sentiment in there. So I like when people are able to talk about things that they're really passionate about, even if I don't really fully get it. Like friends, I like to support them in whatever they're doing. So I like it personally.
It's quite funny as well. Like when you have this online like sort of persona, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like between me and my friends, we have a very dry sense of humor, a very sarcastic sense of humor, and sometimes it'll leak online. So like one of my friends would get a new job, and all of us would comment like, "Who cares? Who asked?" Like it's very sarcastic, and a couple of people are like, "Why is everyone being so mean to you? Like, congratulations!" And I'm like, "Ah, shit, yeah, people don't know we're friends because I mean, if you don't." It's hard to know sometimes like who are friends and who aren't in this industry, and sarcasm doesn't always like they get it because they know us, so they read the sarcasm, but other people are like, oh wow, these people are being really mean to you about your promotion, like I'm really happy for you, and I'm like, oh god no, we're not assholes, I promise, like we're just joking, we love this guy, like chill, it's okay. Actually, this is what I want to circle back to because it literally clicked as you said it. So like, why is it why is it that like a character art of all the game art mediums, so you got like environment art, you got VFX, you got UI, you got animation, it's always character art getting the really trollish, unpleasant comments. And there's an easy example, which is like anything which is remotely sexualized, instantly you're going to get some sort of inflammatory response. But it's like, it's people at the end of the day, and you don't see people being particularly toxic towards environment artists or to weapons artists or to VFX artists. Like, hey, your clouds look really shitty, and like, they should be like this. But character art, you get it. I mean, most of the toxicity I see in terms of like people just really wanting to smack talk someone's art, I think is 99.999% is aimed at character art, it triggers a very visceral response from people. And like, it's all, yeah, when I say visceral, I mean, okay, you just want to be a douche, fine, you want to just attack this character artist. Why is it character art? Is it because they're people and like it's the sexual element to it, the beauty element to it, social standings? Like, where does that come from? Because it is primarily character art that gets it, faces the brunt of it anyway.
Yeah, I think it's like what you were mentioning about the phone. Like it's something characters, everybody has seen other humans. I mean, I hope. And so they know what somebody looks like. And I mean, they also know what a tree looks like, what a rock looks like, but I doubt that they have sat and analyzed it in the same way that an artist would, or that in an environment artist would, because it's like I know what a tree looks like. But I have never analyzed it to like the point where I'm thinking about like, oh, what kind of tree has what kind of bark and what's like the surface of that. And so I think it's just easier to be like, that character doesn't look good because it doesn't look real enough, or the aesthetics aren't there, or the sexual aspect of it, which has just been a really huge conversation within the industry. When the Anita stuff happened some years ago, it was like really annoying, honestly, because
the what stuff?
The Anita Sarkeesian stuff with the tropes in video games, and she would talk about sexualized character artists or sexualized characters in games, and it was just so unfortunate because like she talked about it in such a negative way. It was literally to find something negative and to bring it to the surface and shame the game or shame like the studio, the artist. And it felt so bad because it's like, if you want to see something in games, you need to uplift it. Like if you like a game, talk about it, post about it. Like if you don't like something in a game and your point is to create a change, like maybe not make somebody feel bad about it, because a lot of the time, one, there's spite, which like my career is partially based on that, because my teachers used to tell me that, can't do anime or stylized stuff even in high school. So I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. But it's like those people are going to be offended if you're constantly telling them that their work sucks and that it's shit and that this isn't how women look like in real life and they shouldn't be treated like this. And it's like, well, if you actually played through the entire game, like I think she did an episode on like Hitman or something, and she's talking about how like, oh, you're supposed to like beat up these women, and it's like, you're supposed to sneak by these women. Like the whole purpose of this is like, you're trying to be sneaky in this area and get through. And she would force these conversations to make it look really bad when it really wasn't. And then I think at some point it came out that she really wasn't a gamer, and she was just like, this was an area that she could talk about. And so she just, I don't know, started playing some games and talking negatively about it. She had a Kickstarter that made like a stupid amount of money, and she would go to different studios to, I guess, promote some of that stuff. And it's like, I get what she was trying to do, but she was doing it in such a negative way that like it felt really bad, because like I'm all there for diversity in games. But I think it needs to be done correctly, and it needs to be done respectfully. I think that's my biggest thing. Like I'm super, super big into being respectful. And so when somebody is being rude to one another and is just like constantly shit talking something, like that's really irksome. Like I get there's a big difference between like venting to your friends to trying to ruin somebody's career online or to ruin somebody's game online. It's just inappropriate. And so I think after her, there's just a lot of spikes, and I think people can talk about it civilly, but I always felt like the only time it really got attention is when people got like super aggressive about it in conversations, which is awful, because I'm like, anytime I would speak out about it, my comments would always get ignored, because I would try to be really level-headed about it and provide like actual just like actual facts about things. Because I remember we were talking about, I think it was Borderland, maybe 2. I can't remember, 1 or 2, and just talking about like the diversity in characters they had there for, males and females, and how cool that was. But it's like that was completely ignored because everybody was too focused on like hot girls in other games. Yeah, and it's like, come on, like we're getting it. It's happening. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons. Like I feel like after that happened, this has been a conversation all the time, and it's super unfortunate because I think a lot of the time people that do get angry about it or really outspoken about it, it literally might not even be about that. I think it's
Yes.
just they're having a bad day, and this is a topic that might be a little bit sensitive to them, and they just flat out go all out on it. And then there also are those people that know that this will get them attention, and they will start this conversation, and then they'll get all the tweets and the retweets and the
Has
likes
to
and
frame
whatever.
it.
And I'm just like, oh my God, you're ruining somebody's career. Like right here, you're shaming this person. They're gonna be blacklisted in studios. Like people are gonna look negative at them when they have no idea who this person is. And so it's like you have to really think about it. Like your words really, really, really matter. Like you could literally be ruining somebody's life. Like you can be kicking somebody out of the industry by accident because you didn't like one of their pieces of work and somebody
Yeah.
trusted you over actually looking into that person. And so it's wild. So that's why I think people need to be super careful about it. I know sexualization in the industries, like we're trying to get better at it. I think we are getting better at it. I mean, it takes time. And just it just like also certain products call for diversity within the game. So it's like, yeah, you might have like a really hot girl in a game, but then you also have other representations of characters in game. Like you can't always have the hot dude in a game too. Like you have to have different representations.
Mm.
If you have a variety, great. Some games you just can't do that. Something like an MMO or a MOBA or a fighting game, like you have a lot more ability to do that because you have so many more characters to work
Yes.
with. But if you have a game that's like, here's the main dude, here's a secondary person, and here's like very few other people sprinkled in, it's like you probably don't have the ability to quite like develop those characters. And it sucks that people just get that first glance and have that judgment.
Well, it kind of, it's a shame as well because sometimes when you're talking about very valid point, sometimes there's a point there like that needs to be discussed and like with a level-headed approach. And the example I always give, have you seen a documentary on Netflix, Seaspiracy?
I don't think so.
So it's about like all the stuff we're doing to the ocean, you know, with how we fish and the damage it's doing and all of that. All are very, very valid points. The guy who created the documentary, fantastic job. Like it's a very good documentary, except for when he goes to interview any of the companies, the fish. And he spends prior to the clip of him trying to get the interview, it's like him saying, these companies won't talk to us. It's such a shame. Why won't they talk to us? He gets in the office. So he's got past reception. He's in the office. He's about to, speak to this person. And the first thing he says is, so how can you sleep at night when you know you're destroying the planet and you're completely ruining people's lives and children are dying? And it's like, and that person, they kick him out. And he's like, he has a valid point for what they're doing but do you think, like, I'm watching and I'm going, do you think they're going to talk to you? And do you think you're going to have a rational conversation when your first thing you say to them is, how do you feel that you're killing the planet? It's like, okay, I'm just want to talk to you. Like, fuck you, get out. And it's like this with the characters, with anything we have a discussion over. It doesn't matter if it's characters or games or whatever. It's like, maybe by jumping to the hyperbolic, insulting, snarky comments, rudeness, it's like no one's gonna listen. And like you said, you come in with a very valid point. People are already escalated to like a very emotional state where they're like arguing with each other in a very personal way. It's like, okay, well, this is a complete waste of time and this is a cesspit of nastiness. Okay, cool. We'll move away from that. I always point to the conspiracy stuff because it really illustrates it, where it's like, if you actually want to fix this and you genuinely do, like, and you're not just doing it to win brownie points on social media, then the nasty route and the visceral route isn't the way to do it if you actually want to fix it. But there is one thing with the character side of stuff, and I wonder this, like, because with the over-sexualization side of stuff and all of that, so we're seeing games on screens, on TVs, on our PCs, right next to TVs, movies, social media. And as we all know, social media is the highlight reel, especially with something like Instagram, where like fitness models, both male and female, you only see the super fit ones who are like shredded with like 0% body fat. And you're like, okay, like this is what our games are like. Your games or movies, all media is kind of on this level field of like the internet and media in general, creative media in general. So everything is competing for attention. Everything's competing for eyes. So they go straight to the extreme, which is like you can say hypersexualization of beauty, beauty standards. It's like it's very hard to move away from that. I guess if movies, TV, music, music videos, social media all play the same game of we're going to lean into the upper echelon of beauty standards because that's what people want to look at, that's what people click on. It's very hard to move away from that because and I agree with you. I think games have done a fantastic job on having diverse casts where they can, especially games in fact League of Legends is one of the best ones, and maybe because they have lots and lots of characters, but every character is unique. Every character is a wide range of body types, of character personalities, all these sorts of things. But it's like it has the bandwidth and able to do so. Is this like linked to characters looking a certain way to do with just the whole industry of creative media being a certain way? And I guess how to say this? Is it like easily fixable more than what maybe I'm perceiving it as? Because I kind of see it as all of this media is doing the same thing. You're all competing for attention. You make games which people want to play, so you make protagonists which are interesting, which and interesting both aesthetically and personally. It's like we lean into the upper echelon of beauty, like our stereotypes of beauty, because that's what's interesting for our main character. Like, is that specifically a super bad thing? If where you in games where you can have diversity, and when I say diversity, I mean diversity of body types. Like in a game where there's more ability, like you said, like if a game only has like one or two protagonists, you want to make them as interesting, as likable as possible. If you have a game where you have hundreds of characters, okay, we can really like kind of show a wide spectrum of people. Is that idea fixable easily? Is it even need fixing? What is it like? Because I can't help but feel like our characters are going to be based on what we see on like social media and all that sort of stuff. That's what people see as normal. Whereas, like you said, people who, if you're researching a character, you have to really research people anatomy, real anatomy, not social media anatomy, not movie anatomy, where the dude had like the dudes look like Chris Hemsworth and the females look like Scarlett Johansson. It's like no, there's real people. We have to do actual anatomy to make characters, but that's all we see, as when we're absorbing creative media. So that's what we deem as normal. So as character artists, and like not character artists, that's not just for you guys to fix, but like, how do you move away from that? How do we fix that? Is it literally just a case of we just need to not rely on stereotypes of beauty in order to fix that, or is it other solutions?
I think it's fixable, but it's also very different culture to culture. Yeah. Because every country has its own standards of beauty and their own viewpoints. Like I love Korean dramas. I've also like looked into a bunch of their beauty standards. Plastic surgery is super, super, super high within their country. And they literally just start adjusting the way they look like when they're teenagers, pretty much. And it's crazy because it's like there's so much pressure on them over there. And then when you look at their games, they're all very similar in aesthetic, where it's like, oh, it's just a pretty girl. It's just a pretty guy. It's another pretty girl. It's another pretty guy. And that is kind of what they do and have. Like, I don't think I really see a lot of character diversity within their games, and within their culture, that might be perfectly okay. but with us, with like the Western culture and like especially the United States, because when I moved here originally when I was little, I was always told America is a melting pot, and it's a mixture of all these cultures, and just it's a very diverse nation. And the fact that most of our stuff has always been like, oh, the hot girl and guy who are white are going to be represented in all these movies, all these games. That was just like, I don't know, the norm thing to do. And I think we've finally started realizing that it's like, hey, so our country is very diverse, and like we do want to be able to represent everybody within it. And I think that's really cool that we have finally started doing that and pushing for that. And I know not every country is gonna do that because that's just not their priority. But I am happy that we have studios that are taking that leap and pushing those things forward, even though we know like some things just are not going to sell because people are like even with The Last of Us 2, all the conflict with like Abby and stuff. It's insane that like it blows my mind. I read through that entire ArtStation, all those comments, and it's just like I was so ashamed in those. It was just insane that people don't want to play a game because of a buff girl and the things that happened in that game. But it's just it blows my mind because it's like, you know what, sometimes maybe this game isn't for you. And that's just what it is. Like it has an audience, like this movie has an audience. If it gets more people into it, great. But I'm happy to see studios like finally starting to stand up for what they want to show as opposed to show what only sells. And I think that's been a big thing where a lot of studios were like, well, we need to keep the lights on and we know this is going to sell, so we're going to do this because this is going to attract people. Like I think I used to hear that female main characters don't sell games very well, which is super unfortunate because like when I was growing up, I played Street Fighter, and it's like I had Chun-Li, and I was very happy that I had like my one character there pretty much. And I played like Mortal Kombat, and I had like several more, and it was great. And then I played things like Spyro, where I'm just like a really cool dragon. But it's like I played any female character that I could because there's just never any in games, what it felt like. But I think we've also learned over time that that's not true. I think people just never really focused maybe on creating female characters as much. And now I think now that things are all out on the table, people are having these conversations. They're just, I guess, learning. And that's the biggest thing. It's like if you have never thought about it, you just keep doing what you're doing. And now that people have a better understanding of what they can do and what is actually wanted, and just being more educated, I think that's definitely helped our industry. And like I love the fact that Overwatch has a diverse cast of characters.
Yes.
I think that's amazing, and I'm super excited that like I feel like that helped push some of those boundaries in our industry too, to be like, oh hey, here are different body types, here are different ethnicities, like here is like a good mix of female and male characters and like everything in between. And so I definitely appreciate for them standing up to that and pushing it forward. And I love that in League we're trying to push for diversity and representation of like all of our players. I think that's amazing, and I'm happy that we are able to have that because we have so many champions. And so the more games that do that, I think just it's going to become the norm at some point, but it's definitely going to take time, and it's going to have to be studios that are just willing to push through that and be okay to know that they might lose parts of their player base because maybe those players just, that's not what they want, or maybe not what they want at that time. Because I know there are plenty of people too who are like, I don't like this game. Like me, I will start a new game and I generally don't like it, and then like 6 hours later, I'm like, this is my favorite game. I'm never going to stop. So it's like, I think people need to give games that they might not like because of the characters that are in them, like just a bit more time and to actually try them out because they might love them. Like, I honestly, at this point, like, I don't care if I play male, female, dragon, dog, whatever. Like, as long as the gameplay is fun, I'm perfectly happy.
I mean, it's also, I guess games are going through this maturity phase of as an art form, I guess, because so Last of Us 2 is a great example of this. Like like I said, it doesn't really matter what like the gender of the character is. Like, it's very, if you make a likable character as likable, like Ahsoka is most of the Star Wars fandom's like favorite character at this point. She's an amazing character. People love her. And it's kind of like, so Last of Us, I think is a good example of this, is there were elements I didn't like of Last of Us, like decisions made. Mm-hmm. And like my first time I watched it through, I played it through, I was like, yeah, I didn't like this. Like, and I was like, and obviously I know that's the point that a lot of it was for, is to like, you know, kind of put the player through what Ellie was going through. But there were certain decisions in the game. So the one, like, for example, with the, you play half the game as Ellie, then you play half the game as Abby. For me at first, when I first played, I was like, Jesus, I feel as if this would have been better if you'd done it like a different way. But on second playthrough, it's like, okay, I can accept that maybe I don't like, personally as a gamer, I don't like this decision, but as an experience, like, I get it. So I didn't like particularly Ellie and Dana. I thought they were very similar characters and personalities, so there weren't too much chemistry. However, that being said, on a second playthrough, you see their relationship deteriorate as you play through the first day. Like, they went from the beginning bantering and having a laugh and all that sort of stuff towards the end of the day where, like, they could barely say two words to each other. And I'm like, okay, even though I could say I don't particularly like the chemistry between these two characters, for the experience that is the game as an art form, it really makes you see the deterioration of their relationship. Same with the Abby stuff. Like, you know, even though I may feel like, oh, it was a bit of a slog, or it really killed the momentum of the game for me, it's like, but you go through the experience as an art form. It's like that idea to a game. I mean, let's face it, gaming's been maturing for the past 20 years. Like, if you compare games in the 90s, both thematically and gameplay wise, they aren't exactly the most intellectual games. It's like shoot up and punch ups. Like, that's kind of it. Last of Us is like, that's an art form. Like, that's a piece of art and an experience to be played. I feel like this is part of the maturity phase of gaming, where it's like, not everyone's ready for a piece of an quote experience rather than a game. Some people think that every game needs to be the cathartic, shoot 'em up, enjoy the character, like the character, see the hero win, like you would with a Gears of War or a Master Chief or whatever. But as I hope more games do this. I do hope more games do this, because there's one thing I will say for Last of Us. You're right, it's not for everybody. And that's a good thing to me. The more we are happy for games not to be for everybody, the happier I am, because I think that, like, gaming as a whole it's not as diverse as it was in the early 2000s. I remember the PlayStation 2 genre. Every game was different. Like, there was cool mechanics, there's interesting characters. Whereas now I think a lot of games like kind of follow the same formula. And Last of Us is great. I'm like, yeah, more of that. Like, even if you're not going to please everybody, even if you piss a few people off, it was true to an experience, it was true to an idea and as an art form. And I'm like, yeah, more of that. Even though me personally as a gamer, I may not agree with all the decisions made, I can appreciate it for the experience. And one of the things about the Abby stuff, because that was infuriating. I'm like, whatever. You could say, like, she was, you know, because I saw a lot of stuff like, oh, in post-apocalyptic time, she would never be that buff. And I'm like, okay. I was into CrossFit for a while, fair enough. A lot of the CrossFit girls were training every day, whatever. Like, they were buff. But you didn't say a word when Gears of War came out, and them dudes had necks the size of my legs, and you didn't say a fucking word. So I'm like, you can have that comment if you have a consistent comment across every time you see it. But if you're just going to pick a hole because you're trying to find a hole, yeah, you don't get to make that comment, dude. Like, you can't get by with the space movies we've had for the past 20 years and never bat an eyelid. And I mean, I guess we did joke a bit, you know, the Space Marine joke has existed for a while, but still, you didn't get upset at it. You didn't say, I'm not playing this game because it's not realistic. To then see a pick who's like, maybe exaggerated by like, what, 20% at most? And you're going to say you're never going to play this game again because of that? I'm like, dude, you're just, I don't even know what the word is for that. Being a dick, I guess is the only word for it. But and it's funny. It's Frank Zhang, man. Like, you're gonna go on his R station. You're gonna go on his. That's like on a Raf Crussetti's R station and being like, "Yo, Kratos is like he's too old. He should like have bigger biceps and bigger shot." I'm like, dude, you're gonna call out Raf Crussetti for this character. Like, I'm not gonna. He's good. Yeah, you know, he's gospel. if he says it's right, cool, I back you. Same with Frank Zhang. So it's like there was a lot of hypocrisy around that game, which is very frustrating because there were some interesting conversations to have, and there's no civil discourse on games, which is the other frustrating thing. I don't know why. It's quite tribalistic. Like, if I say, I didn't really, there's elements of Last of Us I didn't like. And then a lot of time it's met, I don't know whether it's because it's defensive at this point, but like, it's very hard to have civil conversation about any game. Like, I'm using Last of Us as an example, but insert any game. It's like, I don't know why gamers are so passionate. Like, I don't want to say passionate because that always justifies it, but like, they have such visceral reactions to their games. Like, oh, I don't like the new Master Chief in Halo. You are met with an onslaught of, knee-jerk, angry reactions. And it's always about the characters. It's never about the game. It's never like, oh, that's my favorite environment. What are you doing smack talking? It's like, no, I like that designer, Chief. And like, fuck you if you disagree with me. It's a very weird visceral reaction game characters get across the board. And this isn't just unique to like Last of Us, like Master Chief, the Gears of War characters where they recasted Marcus Phoenix for some reason. Aloy recently. It's like everything's met with very reactionary, loud, hyperbolic comments. And it's so weird to me. It's so weird.
Yeah, I get it from the player standpoint of view because it's their games that they get like attached to and love. Like, I feel the same way about like, I love the Harry Potter universe and Tolkien stuff, so I have a deep attachment to that. And when the movies didn't hit the books, it's like, oh, I can't believe they didn't talk about this, or they changed this, or they changed the name of that, or they missed this part. So I get like players of the video games being really passionate about it because a lot of the time they're probably maybe on the younger side and they just don't know how to express themselves. But it always bugs me when it's industry people because it's like, we're the same industry. We should know about it. We're probably going to work together one day. Like, we're going to interview each other. Like, people remember these things. And so, like all the Frank Zhang thing, like Frank Zhang's work is godly. It is amazing. Like, and he was so nice and humble in those comments. Like, I don't think I saw him say anything remotely negative. And so it's like, I'm glad he was able to take that. I'm sure internally it really hurt, but I'm glad that so much of the industry came to his defense and to the game's defense on there. I think like a younger artist that would have like crumbled them. But I'm happy to see that people stood up for that. But it's like that should not have happened. That's also a professional art site. So seeing people flip their shit on a portfolio professional website, it's like, dude, I'm a hiring manager. Like, I see what you are saying. I have now written you off as somebody that I would work with because you are incapable of talking to people.
I was working at ArtStation during this, and I was like, we're in a meeting, and I was like, I can't believe I'm seeing. I mean, I love ArtStation. It's like, it's the platform I owe my career to. It's where I like grew up as an artist, and I was like, I was actually upset. Not because, like, remove the context of the comments, like, about the character and Frank Zhang. I'm like, this is a portfolio website, man. And people are starting to feel like this is like a fringe case, right? Like a very hyperbolic character and a very extreme case. But it always starts in the extremes. So great. We've had the first, like, I mean, I've seen some cases of it, but this is the worst I've seen it, where it's like, oh, we're going to treat this like this is fucking Twitter. Okay. Well, this is bad. Like, this is not good. This needs to be like unacceptable. Like, it's unacceptable, stamped out, because it's a professional site, and if you don't, this creeps in. Like, then it's the next thing, and people are a little bit more loud and hyperbolic and rude on someone's portfolio, and then the next event, and then even more. And it's like, eventually it becomes a norm to just the start point for conversations to be rude and offensive, just like it is on most social media now. And it's like, when I was at ArtStation, I was actually upset in the meeting when I saw this and we were talking about it, because I was just like, fuck, man, not ArtStation. Whatever, leave it on Twitter, leave it on Instagram. Not that I condone that kind of behavior anyway, but I'm like, not ArtStation, please. Like, I love this site. Don't bring it here. So that was really upsetting to see. And it shook the team as well. The team were like, bear in mind, I was only there for a short amount of time. These people like built this company up from ground up, and they're like, fuck. Like, this is happening. This isn't good. And they're really upset about it. And I'm like, Man, I feel for you guys. I'm upset, and I've only been on ArtStation for a few years. Like, you guys built this thing, and this has happened. I mean, I felt terrible for him at the time. It's one of them low moments. And the worst bit is that ArtStation isn't the gamers. I tend to feel that's why I kind of care quite a lot about ArtStation, the comments I get on there, because I'm like, they're fellow artists. And unfortunately, it's my fellow artists who were behaving in this way. I was like, oh man, that was a kick in the gut. It wasn't good.
It was, I think, the first time that I've ever seen something like that happen. And I think I've seen a few very like similar comments, but definitely not to that extreme after that. But I don't think I've seen too many since then, thankfully. But yeah, that was a shit show. Like, that was so inappropriate. I just like, wow, don't do that. That is one of those examples of, see what happened there? Don't do that. That was messed up. But yeah, it's the character shouldn't have had it. The artist shouldn't have had it. Naughty Dog should not have experienced the things that came with like all the game leaks that happened at that time too. And all that experience for Frank, like that was just awful. But I do think that they probably came out much stronger on like the other side, because I don't know what the sales were for that game, but I assume they were stupid amazing, because it's like, it's an amazing game. I never played it. My husband played it. He played it in front of me the entire time, so I got to watch through it. It is an experience, which not a lot of games are able to do that. And it's like, it's a beautiful game. It's an insanely beautiful game, and it cares about story, and it cares about pulling you through these experiences of these characters, good or bad. And it's like, it is an art form. I completely agree. And I hope it doesn't make them want to pull back on things like that. I hope that they stay strong with their next games and continue being able to like bring this kind of storytelling and this kind of world to people in the future, and that this doesn't like break them, because it is amazing. And I'm glad that they're able to tell it, even if it wasn't, even if it isn't the kind of game that I like to play. I fully believe in games like this.
Well, it's nice to have a game which actually makes you think. Like I said, I played it and I was very conflicted. I was like, there's bits I don't like, there's bits I do like. Do I like that? Oh, and like second playthrough, I'm thinking, like, I'm actually having to like really make a call. Like, and not many games do that. Most games go for that really cathartic experience of, we've got to make sure it feels really good to kill people. Now, Last of Us, like these types of games, I say experience because for me, I'm more a fan of the gameplay. But again, the gameplay aided in the experience. It's like my favorite game of all time is Silent Hill 2. And I caught myself thinking, oh God, I don't like the gameplay of Last of Us. Like, at least an interesting game. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, Silent Hill 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. And that game plays like a piece of shit. Like, the dude, it takes 6 seconds wind up time to swing a piece of wood. It is not good gameplay, but it all aids in the experience of Silent Hill 2. So I had to catch myself. I was like, wait a minute, I can't sit here and fucking say, oh, I don't like the gameplay of Last of Us. Like, it aids in the experience of Last of Us. And not enough games do that. Like, and it's not for everyone. Some people they want Fast and the Furious, not Black Swan. They don't want, and that's fine. But I agree with you. I hope we get more games like this, where it's, hey, we want to actually get the player thinking, like on an emotional level, not just the instinctive, cathartic gameplay level. Like, we want them to think about this story and and it sits with them, and their opinion's going to change over time. And it's like, there's not enough of that. We've got enough open world games. We have enough of them. Like, we have enough first person military shooters. Like, more of this, please. I would very, very much like that. And, maybe less of the controversy. I mean, I know you do stuff like this, you're going to get controversy, but like maybe a little bit less. Like, it'd be nice.
Yeah. And I also do wonder, because like I think this all happened during COVID, because I think that's when they released. And so like I do wonder if just being stuck in house and people this is their only way to release like some of that energy. If that played any into it, but it's like, man, like just think about it. Like anytime I get really irritated with something, really passionate about something, I write it down. I rewrite it a few more times. I leave it alone for a few hours. If it's like controversial, I leave it alone for a few hours. And then I think about it. Like, do I actually want to post this and start this conversation? Or can this be something that I can let go and I can go vent to my friends? And like 9 out of 10 times I can let it go and vent to my friends and it doesn't bother me. So it's like, do you really want to ruin your reputation within the game industry and your possibilities of like working at some of these studios, and some of these studios are related to these studios just because of like a split second needing to just unleash how you feel about a character? Because I don't think that's worth it. Because like there are consequences for things like that. And like Naughty Dog is a huge studio and it's a Sony studio, and there's a lot of other Sony studios that are connected to it. It's like all these artists, they constantly talk to each other. And it's like, I know everybody has their little cliques of like of friend groups, and you know, seeing this happen, it's like, okay, cool, now you're written off. You're never going to work at a studio like this if these people exist there because they know how you treated their friend. And it's like, nobody wants to work with people like that, and it's so important. Play nice.
It's a small, I mean, this terrifies me about this industry. It's a small industry. Even like, there's people online who I call friends who I've never met a day in my life, and we probably sent 2 tweets to each other, but I still like, I want to see them succeed and I'll cheer them on. So if I hear like, oh, this person gets like, who I've spoken to twice on Twitter has received this, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll come to, I'm there for you as a someone in this industry with you. And I'm like, that word will spread, like, it's, this person, that tweet goes viral, you completely abusing a dev, and the whole games industry sees that. It's like, it's not even just a Naughty. I mean, the Naughty Dog Sony one is a very like, yes, that's gonna happen. You've just screwed yourself. But it's like, even here in Europe, it's like, yeah, I remember seeing it. Yeah, is that the guy that Chateau Frank Zeng? Mate, do you want to work with that person? Like, no, like, okay, yeah, screw that. It's like, and it's a shame as well, because it's like one moment, and you're right, it probably is like a knee-jerk reaction, a moment of madness. But I'm like, even then, I'm like, I get pissed off. I see things, I get very upset, and I'm like, as a rational human being, I can walk away from the PC for 10 minutes and calm down, grow up a little bit, and come back to my PC and go, you know what? It's fine. Someone else this actually isn't worth being upset about. And it's like, there's not many roads to redemption from that. Like, that one split second lapse of judgment could screw you over. Like, that's your career made not necessarily impossible, but way more difficult. Because of one lapse of judgment. And it's like, part of me kind of goes, oh, that's a shame, there's no good road for redemption. The other part of me is like, you know what, actually no, like, you really need to have more control of yourself. Do you think, actually, this is as an end, I've just really looked at how long I have like OBS on a different screen, so like I can't see how long we're going for, so I'm sorry I've taken up a lot of your time. But one last question. If, say for example, we like person A, he smack talks an artist on a, in a very public way, and like it blows up, and that person, say like 6 months later, tweets or like put something online to say, look, I realize, an apology. I don't know how that gets phrased and how you say it sincerely, but there is a genuine, sincere apology. Do you think that is enough for the industry to sort of go, okay, like, yeah, he smacked toward this person, but he also publicly accepted that it was wrong and apologized? Or do you think the industry would always be like, well, you're just saying that to, save your career. You don't actually feel bad. Like, do you think there is hey, you own your mistake and apologize for it, are willing to move past it? Do you think the industry is able to do that, or do you think it'd always linger?
So that's a mixed thing, because it's like, is it sincere? Did they apologize to the person as well? Or is this just a social media, like, clear that they're doing and trying to save their career. I do believe in second chances for people. I might believe in second chances for people a little bit too much. But like, I think it also depends where they are within their career. Like, are they a senior artist and they've been in the industry for like 10 years, or are they a junior person and they're still learning? And so I think that also has a play in it, because if it's somebody that's like, they're, I don't know, in their like mid 30s, they've been in the industry for 15 years, they're still making this mistake. Like, how come it took them so long to learn this lesson? I mean, I do believe that they can. And I do believe people who have truly changed absolutely deserve that ability to make that move forward. But it is really hard to trust some people, because it's like, I've seen people's apologies online, and I've seen people retract their apologies online, and that speaks a lot for itself.
People retract apologies?
Oh yeah, there's a lovely concept artist, or illustrator. I don't even know what he is, but he did some awful things in the industry, and when he put up his apology, people, I guess, like, he's not liked, and then he retracted his apology, and he still keeps poking around. And thankfully, we have like a lot of really great concept people within the Twitter community that bring it up every once in a while to make sure that people are still aware. But it's like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, so that's why I'm like, is it sincere? Like, if somebody literally, in all honesty, like they had this realization within them, and they're like, you know what, I was an awful person, that was really inappropriate, I want to be better, I'm going to like apologize to the people who I have hurt, and I will own my apology. And honestly, like, if it's like the people who have wronged, like say Frank Zhang in the comments, like, I don't know if they need to make a public apology. I think just apologizing to Frank would be really kind. That way, it also shows that it's like, hey, they're doing it for themselves and Frank, as opposed to be like, oh, look at me, I'm doing the good thing, the right thing, everybody pay attention. And so I think I do believe in second chances. They just have to be real. And I do want to give people second chances, and sometimes those people don't deserve it, because like I want to believe in the best of people. But that's our industry is a very mixed amount of like personalities, and some people are very good at talking the way out of things. And then I love when people are able to be honest and vulnerable, and they don't hide who they are. And so I really appreciate people who are just themselves, as opposed to people that are like, I'm going to say the right thing at the right time to look like this perfect person. And then you meet them in person, or you work with them, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so miserable. How did we get this person in our office? And it's because they said all the right things. So as long as they're being sincere, yes, I think they can come back from stuff, depending what that stuff is, because it's
of course,
there are some of those boundaries that it's like, I don't know, I don't think you belong in this industry anymore. And then it's like, being negative and a jerk to somebody, like, I think you can definitely come back from that. Salt, that's like a whole other thing. From that, I think that's much harder to come back from and to grow from. So that's definitely a harder topic to figure out.
Yeah, it is on the front. It's hard, because it's like, you mostly, like I said, you don't want to get, if you have it's hard. If they're good talkers as well, like, you know, politician's apology kind of thing. It's like, because it's hard, because like part of me is like, like the way, if I've misspoken in the past, like, it's, you talk to the person directly. Now, obviously, I've not been in this situation, but it's like, part of me is kind of like, okay, I'll apologize to Sam, Frank Zhang. Apologize, Frank Zhang. Sorry, dude. I completely misspoken. And I hope you're okay, and all that sort of shit. It's like, does that fix without a public apology? Like, without me going on Twitter and saying, hey, Frank Zhang, hey, Naughty Dog, I am so sorry. Like, I said all this bullshit. It's like, part of me would be like, yeah, you're just saying that to save your career. But at the same time, because I am sorry, but I do also want to be part of this. And it's weird, isn't it? It's like, I mean, then again, saying that, we haven't had to face it. Like, realistically, most of the people I see shit talking, like, other artists are people who aren't pushing or striving to be better themselves and probably don't need to worry about getting anything injury anytime soon. And those who do have to worry about, it's a good thing we have good leads like yourself to sift through and save us some pain down the line. But I'm so sorry. Like I said, I've just looked at the time and how long we've been going. I have taken up your whole lunch and more. So I am really thankful for you coming on. It's been really fun talking. I mean, I've spoken to you a few times on social media and interacting in the community in general. So it's been great to finally sit down and talk through things and having more. I'm actually enjoying. I said this last week to Eric. Is having more disciplines other than just environment art is really fun. Like, I'm learning a lot myself. I feel like I'm kind of at the beginning of the podcast again, where I was speaking to just environment and materials artists. I was like learning a ton. Now it's like I'm speaking to illustrators and character artists and animators, and I'm like, oh shit, like there's so much to know. Thank you for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like, this had a lot of great conversations. So anytime. So thank you.
As usual, everyone listening, do like, follow, share, subscribe, because the more we share the podcast, the more people who can be helped by some of the fantastic information that Katia has to share. But we're going to sign off. Everyone, I'll catch you in a couple of weeks.